Welcome to Beyond the Chutes, the rodeo podcast that dives deep into the heart of Western culture. I'm your host, Doug Simcox, and here we explore it all. Rodeo's rich histories, the legends and their stories, today's competitors shaping the sport, and the behind-the-scenes heroes who make it happen. From bucking chutes to timed events, from rodeo history to current events, this is your all-access pass to the world of rodeo. Our show is presented by Parasite Systems, who help vet clinics and animal owners experience the power of sight. New in 2025, the all-in-one analyzer featuring fecal sight AI, hemosight AI, and flow sight AI technology. You can find them at parasitesystems.com. Welcome to Beyond the Chutes is presented by Parasite Systems. I'm your host, Doug Simcox, and I'm sitting in Raymer, Alabama at the Kickback Ranch, and I've got a very special guest with me. You know, I first talked with our guest about a year and a half ago, and I said, Jerry, we got to get you on the show. We got to hear your voice, so I'm going to introduce right now, if you don't mind, Mr. Jerry Todd, professional rodeo announcer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here. I will have to say this is my first podcast ever.
Is it?
I've never been invited on anybody else's show.
Well, I know, and that may be, but I know you're a little bit nervous around the microphone.
A little bit.
Okay, and don't worry how you sound.
I'll get over it.
You'll get over it. We'll find your way through it.
Yep.
And we got a lot of ground to cover today.
Oh.
Okay, lots and lots and lots of ground. Per my calculation, 35 years rodeo announcing.
35.
Is that about right?
Let's see. Got started in 78.
78.
So is that close?
I think so. I'm not going to do the math. I don't embarrass myself anymore.
Well, I can do the math pretty good.
Go ahead. What is it?
If I started in 78 and is now
25,
so it's 37 years ago.
37 years.
Yeah. I started rodeoing in 73.
73.
Right out of high school.
Okay. So 1973, you graduated from high school. So while we're there, let's take us all the way back. And just for our audience, I want you to know, I'm in full disclosure, I am transparent in all this. Jerry took me for a ride today, and we went to Montgomery, and we saw the neighborhood.
That would be Montgomery, Alabama.
Oh, sorry, I didn't say Alabama. Not everybody knows it's
Forrest
Alabama.
Gump would have said
it. And I'm telling you, we saw the state capitol, and we saw Martin Luther King's church, where he was a pastor for 6 years.
Yes, sir.
And we saw where it all started from Miss Jerry Todd.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we did. We went really where I was even born at, Fitzhill Hospital.
Fitzhill Hospital.
You know, I got to thinking, if we left there, that Hill guy they talked about did the first heart transplant. Yeah. He was Dr. Hill.
Okay.
I was probably delivered by the man who did the first heart transplant.
Okay. So and that was part of the tour today. And if you ever get to Montgomery, you got to call Jerry. He has got it put together. We did a little bit more research today. Not only did we find the building where the first open heart transplant was done. Yes, sir. Exactly. And we found the building on the second floor, the Winter Building. Yes. The second floor, right beside Chris's Hot Dog.
That's right, the famous Chris's Hot Dog.
Tell them what makes Chris's Hot Dog popular. Or famous, I should say.
It's just Chris's Hot Dogs. I mean, I hate to explain their special recipe and everything.
Well, do you know it?
Oh, no, not really. I don't. You just got to come have one.
Yeah.
I get the combo. I get the hamburger hot dog combo, and they put the same thing on the hot dog they put on the hamburger.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which looked like from the plaque outside, it was closed. We couldn't go in.
Nope.
But I'm not leaving Montgomery.
So we get a Chris's Hot Dog.
Chris Hot Dog. And 1919 he started.
Back in the day. Everybody's been there.
Yeah.
Hank used to hang out there.
Oh, my goodness.
So we won't even get into the Hank deal.
No. Yeah. We need to get into the Hank thing. Yeah. I mean, so Montgomery, Alabama, right on the Alabama River.
Yep.
We were down by the train station. And what was the train station for?
It's just where they brought in different things. I mean, that was commerce. After the river was the main thing. The river is why Montgomery exists.
Yeah.
Because it was a good place to unload goods and stuff of that nature.
Yeah.
And they unloaded everything from slaves, and it's just a part of our history, to cotton, to mules. I mean, everything was unloaded. That was the trade route. And just right up from the river is the square where everything was auctioned off at and sold at. And then, of course, they had later on the train came through, the tracks were put through, and things changed from the river down to the railroad, just like now it's changed. All that is closed down because now we have trucks and all this kind of different transportation, air flights, everything.
But a lot of soldiers, World War I, World War II.
Yeah, they went out of that train station.
There.
They were shipped out of that train station, and most of them never come home.
And it's a huge, like a hotel. So they could house people waiting to get on the train.
Waiting to get on the train. If they came there, they could stay a couple of days in a hotel room.
Yeah. And you're not a block up off the train station, and there's a statue of Hank Williams.
Yep, there he is.
Born.
Made his home. Well, he was born and raised in Georgiana, Alabama. We give them all that credit. And then his grandmother, according to my dad, who was pretty good friends with Hank, the grandmother and Hank's mom moved to Montgomery.
Yeah.
Brought Hank up here. They opened up a bed and breakfast.
Bed and breakfast. Boarding house.
Boarding house.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's where we'll go.
Yes, sir.
So they opened that up, and that's where Hank was kind of raised, right around Dexter Avenue. My dad and them, they were raised over in a little place called Chisholm in that area.
Yeah.
So they hung out around there, and of course, at some point in there, I don't know where or how it ever happened. Should have talked to my dad a whole lot more about all this. My dad and Hank and my uncle Winston, they all kind of got together. They hung out together, and then they all played instruments.
And your dad and your uncle played guitar. They backed up Hank Williams.
My uncle was probably more so instrumental than my dad was. He was one of the original drifting cowboys. There's been a lot of original drifting cowboys. You can look at the pictures down through the years, but Red Todd was my uncle. And he played with Hank. My dad played with Hank at the television station, WSFA, here in town when they had a radio and television, you know. So they played a little bit together and hung out together. And then, of course, Audrey came into the picture.
Yes, sir.
And she wanted Hank to be famous.
Yes.
And Montgomery was not a place to be famous. So we loaded up the wagons and we headed to Nashville. That time went to Louisiana to be on the Louisiana Hayride.
Okay.
You know,
which was a Saturday night show, very similar to the Grand Ole Opry, because Nashville wasn't really on the map big at that point, was it?
No, the Louisiana Hayride was big back in those days. Everybody wanted to be on the Louisiana Hayride.
Yeah. And Dad and Uncle said, we're going?
My uncle did.
Your uncle did?
Yeah, my dad never thought about it because my dad had already been married and so had children. He wasn't going.
Okay.
So my uncle went out, and, of course, Hank, he was known for not showing up at the show a few times. And just a little bickering back and forth between Audrey and him. And my uncle just decided to go home.
Really?
He said, I'm going to go to the house.
Enough of this drama.
I'm done.
Yeah.
And he went to the house, and
that
was the last day, other than, when they went to his funeral.
Yeah. And a lot of, what amazes me about the Hank Williams Jr., or the Hank Williams story, it's big star, right? One of the first real major stars. And he died when he was 24 years of age.
Yeah. Died very young.
Yeah.
The guy had such a talent. When Hank Williams, I think, when I used to listen to his music, he wrote songs from his heart, and he sang them from his heart.
Yeah.
It was about him. It was about his life.
So. Yeah. You think if the Audrey just left him alone, he just played in the bars and been happy?
No, he wouldn't have been happy. I think Audrey did the right thing. She wanted him to be a star, which he should. The music he wrote and the way he was, he needed somebody like Audrey to push him.
Yeah.
Hank Jr. has a place probably 30 minutes from here.
Oh, really?
45 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Okay.
So still in the area.
Hank Jr. still stays here in the area, especially during hunting season. Hangs out around here. People see him quite often at Red's little schoolhouse.
Oh my! And for our listeners, I've been to Red's twice now. A little buffet, this little schoolhouse, been converted into a restaurant. And last night, I don't know if you know this, Marlon Harris was with us. Stan was with us, right? The three of us went there, and as we're leaving, the waitress asked if we wanted to buy a fat hog.
A fat hog.
A fat hog. She had a few of them at the house, and she said, oh, by the way, and she showed us a picture. There's a sow with some new piglets, right?
Yeah.
And Marlon said, well, I got a rental car, and I don't think I dare haul a hog in the back of my car. There's going to be a cleaning fee, he said. Yeah.
It's a wonder Marlon didn't take it home with it.
I was like, Marlon, come on, we got to go. You don't need to take a hog to the house.
No.
So I'm sorry, we got way off there. Back to Hank Williams, Montgomery. We saw the place where his funeral was held, right there on the corner.
Yeah. It was Montgomery. What do they call that? It's not the Civic Center. It was the Town Hall, City Hall.
Yeah.
That's where they had his funeral.
And we saw the original White House, the first White House of the Confederate Army, or the Confederate States.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And we also saw Winters, the building where the telegraph was sent.
Yes.
That started the Civil War.
For the bombing of Fort Sumter.
Fort Sumter.
Yep.
Absolutely.
A lot of history. There's a lot of
Oh,
history
my
in our
goodness.
country.
Oh.
You know, and that's one thing rodeo has kind of afforded me and the guys who travel. And the older I get, the more I look back and say, man, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I, now that I'm where I'm at, I'm like, I want to go see everything I can see, because our country, people want to go on vacation. You do not have to leave the United States.
Yeah.
We have so much beautiful country and so much history.
Yep.
In these older places. I went to Boston one time, and I loved it. I mean, to walk through where all those people walked, and they've got the trail takes you all down through there, to read about Paul Revere, to read about Bunker Hill, to read about all this stuff that's in history books. It's just mind-boggling,
It's mind-boggling.
It is.
And, again, when you come to Montgomery or you get around Raymer, you got to look up Jerry Todd. We're gonna talk about the Kickback Ranch. I already said that. That's where we're recording right now. We'll talk about the reunion we had yesterday, but I got to tell you, if you come down here, go ahead and book maybe a half day, maybe a 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and you put Chris's Hot Dogs right smack in the middle of it, and Jerry Todd will drive you around this beautiful Ford pickup truck. Jerry, you have so much history.
I don't know.
You told me about Paul Revere and things I didn't know about, but it all made sense and all come together. And then, of course, we ended up at the cemetery, top of the hill. And you said
at midnight in Montgomery.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that. There was a video filmed there.
Oh, they did the music video there. And I feel bad. I can't tell you who wrote the song, who sings the songs, and I can't tell you who does the video. Anyway, they did it from the cemetery, because it's midnight in Montgomery.
Yeah.
And old Hank is still there.
And he is.
That's what they say.
We stood right at his memorial, right at his gravesite.
And
right up the hill, all the Confederate and Union soldiers
that are buried
there. What, 750?
I think it was something like that. Yeah.
And
senseless.
And it wasn't because of the battle around here.
Not many battles taking place here. We were a hospital. They found out that Montgomery was so centralized and everything. It was a good place to have a military hospital. So they took in. They didn't care whether it was Union or Confederate. That's the thing about it. When somebody's like that in that dire position, it doesn't make no difference what color the skin is or what side you fight on. They got doctors and nurses trying to save people's lives. And so that's where a lot of them died from the wounds, or either just like we found out today. Tuberculosis, mumps, chickenpox, measles, all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
would come in and wipe a whole camp out. They said.
Yeah.
I mean, forget bullets or anything. I mean, just crazy. So what a. And I know I'm promoting his business, and I'm not sure when he gets this off, but I think I'm going to invest in it. Okay, so. What are we going to call that? Jerry Todd's Memorial or Montgomery tour?
Yeah, the tour. Come on the tour.
Yeah. A rodeo cowboy going to give you the tour.
Yeah, we'll give you the tour. I've lived here for a long time, for 70 years, so I know a little bit about it. My mother used to have a beauty shop downtown, and so when I was younger, when I was a kid, I'm talking about like in the 7th grade, all of us, we get to come to town like every other weekend or so. You'd pick your weekend you want to go, so we'd come down here, and I'd bring a friend of mine or two, and we would leave my mother's beauty shop, and we would spend all day in Montgomery, downtown, walking through everything, going to the movies, and I just had to be back to the beauty shop about 3 o'clock because Mama was going to close at 4 to go home. So
really?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time just walking around everything down there.
And you were, 3 years of age, you're born and raised in Montgomery.
In the
3
city,
years in the city.
City.
I mean, what, 2 blocks from downtown, 3 blocks from downtown, something
not too
like
far.
that, right?
Maybe a mile from the Capitol.
And we went through there today, and I took some video of such things, and then your dad, who was an auto mechanic, right, front end guy.
Yep.
Decision was made to move to the country.
Well, he was on my birth certificate. It's kind of funny. I was looking at it. It says my father was a truck driver. I was like, dang. Okay, that's pretty cool. My father was a truck driver, and I spent a lot of time out there driving a truck up and down these roads, going to these different rodeos. But that he had a produce business. He was trucking. He'd go to Florida and pick up produce and bring it back here. That's all he ever wanted to do, and that really didn't work out. So he became an auto mechanic.
Became an auto mechanic.
He did.
Okay, and was big in rodeo.
My father?
Yeah.
No, hated it.
Hated it.
Did not like it.
Did not like it.
Couldn't play it. Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
No.
And there was a lot around. I mean, what was his opinion of rodeo?
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Why do you want to do something that stupid?
Yeah.
It's just going to cost you money, and you're going to get hurt. You're going to get killed or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he just didn't like it.
So, city boy moves to the country.
Yep.
And you're about how far out of the city? I mean, your mom's got the beauty salon, but how far are you out of the city? What kind of a drive are we talking back then?
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
20 minutes out.
So it's decent drive in.
Yeah.
Decent drive.
Yeah.
But you're country at that point.
U.S. Highway 31.
Yes, sir. I was on it the other day.
Right.
Yesterday, as a matter of fact. US 31. So you're living in the country. How do you find rodeo?
Well, I mean, I grew up watching Westerns,
Okay.
like you do, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
We all did it.
So Gunsmoke and that sort of thing?
Yes, Gunsmoke. I could see Festus. I could hear James Arnett. I could hear that song right now. Festus used to come to our rodeo at Montgomery about every year. That's
Really?
back when the stars of those shows traveled to these various rodeos because they were promoting the shows. So the one that we picked out here, the one we fell in love with at Montgomery, the people who produced our rodeo, was Festus. And, Festus was one of the original members, not an original member, he was a member of the Sons of the Pioneers.
Really?
Festus.
With
could
Roy
sing.
Rogers?
No, Roy
No.
Rogers was not. No, Roy Rogers had his own thing. But the Sons of the Pioneers, there was 4 of them. Festus was one of those members.
Really?
He could sing like nobody's business.
Okay.
Oh, he
Okay.
could harmonize. I mean, you wouldn't think it, but he can sing. And then, it was kind of, I can still hear the band, and they had live bands at the Montgomery Rodeo back then, and I could hear them starting that song up, and Festus would ride around the arena, this horse, and just shaking hands with everybody and touching everybody. I've even got an autographed picture of Festus, so.
Oh, really?
That's kind of a keepsake, from the rodeo days.
So the rodeo, is that the Southeast?
That's the Southeastern Livestock Expo here in Montgomery at Garrett Coliseum.
That's
Big
coming
rodeo.
up here in a few
It's coming up in a
weeks.
couple of weeks. It is.
Yeah, I
It
met
really is.
Randy. I met Randy Davis.
Yeah, Randy Davis used to be the president of the deal. They changed presidents. Linwood McLean's president now. They bring in Frontier Rodeo Company, so Heath brings his team to
Out of
the
Texas.
town, out of Texas. I'm not ever here for the rodeo because I'm working a rodeo in Ocala, Florida. So I'm not ever here for my hometown rodeo.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
But I'm happy with
You've
that.
never been to it?
Oh, I've been to it.
As a youngster?
I announced it a couple of times.
Oh, you did?
Phil and I worked it one time. Gardenhire and I worked it together
wow.
one time. Mathis and I worked it one time together.
Okay.
So,
Mike Mathis.
yes, we worked together doing the rodeo.
So back to it. You're a young man. You're 4, 5, 6 years old. Who you hanging with? Who you running with?
I'm hanging with my buddies just at school, and everything.
yeah.
And the neighbors. Back in those days, though, you didn't just who lived closest to me, and we could get to the creek.
Okay.
And that was a guy by the name of Bob Cordell. He lived right up the street, and I'd go to his house, and we'd leave his house. And I mean, my parents never knew. My mom and dad never knew where I was at. They just knew that we were in the country.
Yeah.
And we were safe. And
Yeah.
they didn't worry about it.
Yeah.
We was down at the creek. We was all over that community. We rode horses. I had a horse. He had a horse. We'd get on those horses, and we'd ride, and we'd race, and we'd run. But I watched those Westerns, and I wanted to be a cowboy.
Okay, so back to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you wanted to work cattle? You wanted to
I didn't know. I just
have a
wanted-
lariat? What did you want to do?
I just wanted to wear a cowboy hat and boots. I just wanted to look the part.
And you got to do that? You had
did.
your own horse. How'd you get a horse?
Well, I just we had one my dad plowed. My dad he loved plowing a garden. I mean, he'd work all day long, come home in the evening time, he'd spend plowing the garden with a horse or a mule. And I just happened to have a horse. And so I was able to ride that horse, and it was, that's what I wanted to do. And then I watched all those Westerns. And then about 11 years old, I had a friend a guy that moved here with his family. They lived in Kansas and Oklahoma. They were an order buying outfit where they bought cattle here and then shipped them out west to their buyers and their customers out there. And so his name was Bucky Roll, and they moved to this country, and it was his grandpa, his dad, and him. And I don't know, that was just my opening. And I went to kind of hung around him all the time. And if they went somewhere, I was in the truck with them,
So they was working cattle.
They were working cattle.
Always had cattle around.
They had cattle. They had about a 1,000-acre place that they had rented. They had leased, and they ran cattle down there. They preconditioned cattle. They shipped cattle out of there, and they shipped cattle out of their barns. And I can remember very vividly. I mean, it's like it was yesterday. The first time I ever just knew this is what I wanted to do. Is Grandpa Rowe, Mr. Ed, and Bucky and I we got up 4 horses. We saddled up. And we're getting ready to go ride to the back of this place, and there's all 4 of us, and we're riding across this hill. Now, I'm about 12, 13 years old, and as we're riding across the top of this hill, I could hear that bonanza music in my ear because we were 4 abreast. You know.
What was that music?
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. And there's old Ben, Joe, Hoss, Adam.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole crew riding across there, you know. And I was like, oh, this is
You
it.
have arrived.
I have arrived.
You have arrived.
That's right. If somebody had shot me off that horse, it'd been all right. I have arrived. I've made it. John Wayne couldn't kill me that day.
So you went home, picked up the books, put the cowboy hat away, and
well, yeah, no, I didn't ever pick the books up. They kind of eluded me.
Yeah.
I sat in the schoolroom and I'd stare out the window, and them teachers, what are you looking at, Jerry? I don't know. There's something that I'm waiting to get out there, you know.
Yeah.
I was that kind of a student.
Okay.
I'm waiting to get out there because I don't want to be in here. And
Yeah.
So, school wasn't
Well,
my forte.
what I got to tell you, what I heard today, I would have swore you were a history teacher is what I would have swore.
No, I just pay attention a lot.
Boy,
you know?
you're like a sponge. You pick up a lot of information.
Well, you need to in life. You need to always be willing to pick up something and learn something.
You
know?
bet. You bet.
And learn the correct history.
So you had this magical moment.
I did.
4 abreast.
I did.
And what goes next?
Well, we just, I started helping them some at the farm. They roped. His dad, Mr. Ed, was a really good roper and a really, really good horse trainer, probably one of the best in the business, a horse trainer. This day and time, they got jerk lines, they got this and everything to make a horse get back, Mr. Ed, when he rode one, the horse was finished. I mean, he was finished. He didn't have to have any jerky on him. No, this horse would back up and work a rope for you, the whole time. He was just a heck of a hand. He came from out in the early days. He was in the PRCA. He'd have been to all those big rodeos, Toots Manfield and all the early days ropers. This is, he was around them, and so he was, I always looked at him as John Wayne.
Yeah.
I mean, he was that kind of a man. He was that kind of a person. Just, you didn't want to mess with him a whole lot because you'd liable to get popped.
Really?
Oh,
he's a fighter.
He was a fighter. Yeah, he was a fighter. But he never started anything, but he finished a lot of things.
Yeah.
But he was a guy that had that John Wayne kind of mentality about him,
Okay.
He really did.
Okay, square shooter.
Yeah, he was. And then, of course, I went through high school. His son and I, we played football together. We did all that different kind of stuff. I'd go to the arenas with him, and I'd untie calves. That was my job. I was the untire.
Okay.
I didn't care. I'd go home, have all the skin pulled off my hands because I'd been trying to hang on to them ropes, but I was the untire, and I was happy.
And hadn't picked up a lariat, hadn't picked up anything.
Nope.
You was help.
Yep, I was just help.
Yeah.
And when I graduated from high school,
Yeah.
I loaded up in the truck with Mr. Ed Roll,
Yeah.
Bucky, and all of us, and we were going to Marianna, Florida, to the Circle D Ranch, Matt Dryden's place.
Okay.
He had every month he would have 2 rodeos, bi-weekly, I think you call that, have a week on, week off, week on, week off. And so that's where everybody in this part of the country went every other weekend to the Circle D Ranch.
Okay.
To rodeo.
Yeah.
And so I had bought me a Charlie Bills rigging that you could stretch out, you could just this
Soft-handled rigging.
soft-handle rigging.
Where'd you find that rigging?
A guy who had come to our town, in fact, our school, they had a rodeo in our school, and Robert Arnold was his name. He's passed away now, but he was working for Dick Canoe Elkins Rodeo Company, back in the early days, IRA Rodeo Company, and he was working for him, and he was sleeping under a truck, and I thought, that's what I want to do right there. I want to sleep under a truck one day. Because that's cowboy, That's
cowboy.
living the cowboy life there, man. Look
Yes,
at
sir.
that,
Yes, sir.
That's Junior Bonner and that's all them movies put together right there, And so I got this rigging from him.
Yeah.
And I went down there, and the first rodeo I went to, Mr. Ed, he says, Todd, I don't know anything about riding bucking horses. He said, just close your hand and look up and pray for the best. That was coming from a calf roper. Look up and pray for the best.
Pray for
and I had a horse called Big John. I can't remember half the horses I get on, but that one horse I can remember that his name was Big John. And I knew nothing what happened until the whistle went off. And when it went off, it kind of woke me up, I reckon. And I'm hanging on the side looking at the fences coming at me.
Okay.
So it was.
So successful first ride.
I made the whistle. Yeah, he didn't bunk me off or nothing, but
Right.
And I was I wish he had he probably should have just cow killed me, and I'd have went home.
You think so? I doubt
I
it.
don't know.
I doubt it.
I don't know, but I'm thinking, man, I was hooked really.
So 73,
And
you're out of high school.
riding bucking horses.
And you're riding bucking
I want
horses.
to, yeah.
And not only bucking horses, you did a little still wrestling along through there?
A little bit of steer wrestling. You know, Neil Owens and guys like that, I was always around them, so I wanted to bulldog a little bit. Mr. Ed, who was my John Wayne guy, pretty honest, brutally honest, he come to me, he watched me one day, he says, Todd, you might be able to bulldog one day, but you're going to have to learn how to ride a horse. And he hurt my feelings.
Oh, my.
I can ride a horse.
Yeah.
And I've learned since then, I understand it.
What was the difference?
Totally.
What was the difference?
There's people who get on horses,
yeah,
and there's people who ride horses.
Okay.
That's kind of like if you go out there and you get on an excavator or a backhoe or something like that, you can probably run it, but you ain't no operator.
Yeah.
An operator, they amaze me.
Yeah.
I can run one,
yeah,
but I ain't no operator.
Yeah.
And at that time, I can ride a horse,
yeah,
but I ain't no cowboy rider.
Okay, because you grew up riding them.
I did grow up riding them.
Yeah.
I learned my own stuff, and nobody taught me about anything.
Yeah.
I just hang on, and just ride.
So at that point, did you start to pay attention, start to work on your horsemanship just a little bit?
No, I just quit bulldogging.
You did. You did. You don't need to be a horseman to ride bucking horses.
No, man, when you ride bareback horses, just get on, You ain't got to look pretty to do that, And back in those days, it would just hang on and spur one. Nowadays, when the bareback riding started changing and they made those handled riggings and everything and those hardback riggings, and guys really started to, I've seen them go from the hanging on to the sides of them, to. And I don't know if I give credit all the way to the Marvin Garrett's and the guys like that, or Clint Corey's, but somewhere about there, I saw a change from the guys that wanted to kind of hang over here on the left or right-hand side and spur at one, to the guys who sit more in that middle and just really took control of their feet and beat them horses back to the ground, took all the power away from them. When you're getting on them bigger horses, it makes you do that, So. And that's when I saw the bareback riding change. But I'd already quit by then.
Oh, you had?
Yeah, Preston Fowlkes saved my life.
How so?
He asked me if I wanted to start announcing the rodeos.
Preston did?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. So you rode bucking horses how long? So what year, better question, what year did you start announcing?
78.
78. So you're 5 years out of high school.
Yeah. And he walks up to me at rodeo and he says, hey, I heard you could announce some rodeos. And I'm like, I don't know who told you that. They lying, because I ain't never announced a rodeo.
Nothing.
I've never had a microphone in my hand.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Why'd he pick you out?
I don't know. I to this day, you'd have to call Preston and ask him.
Okay.
But he says, I don't know. If he says, think about it.
Yeah.
He said, I got a rodeo in 2 weeks in Livingston, Tennessee. I went home and I thought about it, and I said, if I'm going to stay in this business, talking about it may be easier than trying to do it.
Guaranteed paycheck.
Guaranteed paycheck. And I was always about a guaranteed paycheck. Even when I was riding bucking horses, I clowned some rodeos. I hate gambling. I don't like to gamble because it's my money. I like
For sure.
I want a guaranteed check. So I'd clown them rodeos, and I'd get on my bareback horse. I get on my bareback horse, and then I go clown rodeos.
So you was earning fees.
I was earning my fees.
So
anything it took.
When you say clowning, are you saying bullfighting?
I fought bulls a little bit, but mainly I didn't like bullfighting because I was too much just open your hand. Open your hand, you get loose, run. He's right behind you. I can narrate what those guys needed to do. I just didn't want to have to go in there and take the hooking for them. No.
Okay, and I understand that. So you was an entertainer?
Sid McFarland loaned me his horse.
Oh, my.
His mule, excuse me. He had
Okay.
gotten hurt in Madison Square Gardens and broke his arm really bad. And so I borrowed his little donkey. And he showed me how to do the act and everything else. And I started clowning rodeos.
I talked with Sid yesterday.
Yeah.
We did a little episode. It's going to be coming out. He's Montgomery.
Yeah.
And before I go by, 1973, you graduate from, what was the school?
Hooper Academy.
And but there's a school there in Montgomery. A very famous football player came out of it.
Lanier.
And
Lanier
who was
High
it?
School. Bart Starr.
Bart Starr.
Bart Starr.
Yeah.
Bart Starr was our man. He went to Lanier, went to Alabama.
Yeah.
And then he went on to Green Bay Packers and was played in the first Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Under Vince Lombardi.
Vince Lombardi. And, our ratings are going to go up because you uttered the words Green Bay Packers.
Green Bay
Yeah,
Packers.
Yep.
I went to Lambeau Field, took my son there just because Bart played there, and I wanted to go through there. We had a rodeo in Wisconsin I was doing for Joe Simon, and I flew into Green Bay, just because I wanted to take my kid there. We walked to the tunnel where they come out on the field, and it was just an experience. And they said, the guy there doing the tour says, hey, he says, whenever Bart Starr's here and we're introducing former athletes, he says, we have to introduce Bart Starr last because the applause is so long and so loud, anybody else wouldn't hear anybody else's name. So we hold him to the last. I don't care who's here. Yeah. And they introduced Bart Starr. He says, and these people go crazy.
And that's something.
Yep, just
a
love
legend.
Bart Starr.
So back to the legend. Mm-hmm. Back to the legend of being a pro rodeo announcer. It's in 1978. You get discovered. Your star is found. And we don't know exactly why Preston Fowlkes singled you out.
I don't.
But 2 weeks later.
I was in Livingston, Tennessee.
And?
Steve Gatlin.
Steve?
Gatlin was a rodeo announcer.
Okay. He was working the show.
No. He just came there to help me.
Really?
He brought the sound and set it up some big gray horns. I can still see them big gray horns. And he had set that stuff up, and he came there and he talked to me. And he had a daughter named Christy, and she ran barrels, and she's was very good at it. And Steve was a very good rodeo announcer. He worked for E.C. Hunt, a bunch of guys back in the day. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, Steve just kind of said, hey, listen, when you go up there a little early, open that mic and tell them about the bathrooms, tell them about the concession stands. He says, because you don't want your first words to be, hey, ladies and gentlemen, because it's tough.
Yeah.
And I did what he told me to do, and it made it a little easier. It was still very hard. And I'm glad nobody had recordings from those days.
Yeah. So had you paid attention to how anybody opened the show? No. So I
just showed up in the bareback ride, and I was there I didn't care what the announcer. I was wanting to get on bucking horses.
Right.
And I was hauling with Neil Owens and Bubba Aubrey, Harlan Ingram, and those guys. They didn't make it any easier, especially when we show up right at showtime, and Preston's hollering at them, and telling me, if you're going to do this, you can't go with him no more. Blah, blah.
So your dad and your uncle, they're showmen, they're musicians, they're traveling a bit. Your uncle for sure is traveling a bit with Hank Williams. Is that where you get your stage presence from?
No.
Mm.
I don't know that I've got stage presence.
Well, the ability to walk out on the stage and open your mouth, dude.
Yeah, I think me opening my mouth came from my mother. She was more the outgoing person than my dad. My dad's, you have to know my Uncle Winston and my dad, they kind of just sit, they don't say a whole lot. But when they said something, it meant something. But, that's just the way my dad's family was. They were all very quiet people, My mother's family was totally different. And they had family reunions 2 or 3 times a year. And I don't think my dad ever had a family reunion that I remember.
Oh, wow.
They were just that close. Wow. They just didn't do anything like that.
Yeah.
But that's where I got it from my mom.
Okay. And so Livingston, Tennessee.
Yep.
Did I get that right?
You did.
Gentleman showed up, gave you a hand, gave you a little bit of advice, and said, rock and roll, go for it.
Man, I did.
And you did.
I knew enough about the events. Once you get into the events, I was fine. Once I get in the events, I can talk about the events. Most of the guys in the events I knew. I could talk about them.
Okay, so you can talk about that.
But always the hardest part of the rodeo is always the opening.
Yeah.
Trying to get it started, And everything else is just kind of downhill after that, working with the acts, the clowns and stuff like that. And, hey, none of the clowns had mics.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And every cord, you only had cord mics. Nobody had a wireless when I first started.
So you weren't riding, you weren't announcing.
No, I was in the announcer stand.
Yeah.
I was in the announcer stand, and the clown would say something, and I would repeat it. That's the way we did it. We was back and forth. I had to because nobody could hear what he was saying unless I said it back to him again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way we started things off. And I worked with a lot of great clowns, great entertainers, over the years.
Who would that be back in those days? I'm saying 78 and early, and I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Man, Lord. Bill McEnany. Bill McEnany.
Okay.
No, McEnany wasn't clowning back then. Bill Thorpe was one of them. I remember Bill Thorpe coming in there. And there were some other guys. I can't go back that far. Now you're messing with a 70-year-old man.
All right. Don't want to go there. But speaking of famous folks come out of the area, we had a great bullfighter come out of here.
Yes, we
Mr.
did.
Martin.
Yeah, Buddy Martin. Buddy was... I went to school with him. Went to school with his little brother. His little brother lived with me for a little while. But Buddy was a bullfighter and just a really, really godly person. I mean, I've known a lot of godly men in my life, but he was probably one of the most godly men I knew. And he fought bulls. He was the Wick Peth of the IPRA. I mean, he'd crawl on his knees to those bulls, get them to turn back. He worked for Bruce Lurkey and Longhorn for a long time, worked a bunch for David Morgan. You had to be a bad cat to work for David Morgan because he had everything that would hook you. And all our IPRA guys, any guys that ever been to his rodeos will tell you that, And so Buddy worked for them for a long, long time, and had a pretty successful career. And I think he was working for E.C. Hunt, and they were in Arkansas, I believe. And he'd already broken his neck one time at the Longhorn Rodeo. Got it fixed, and then another bull hit him from behind like that, kind of slipped up on him and broke his neck, and he didn't live long after that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a couple of 3 years. In fact, he had just got married. He had just got married, and they were on their kind of honeymoon. They went to do this rodeo, and they were going to continue on. And he broke his neck, paralyzed him, and she stayed with him until the day he died.
And was he kind of contemplating getting out? Now I'm married.
I think he was.
He was still going.
He had just got his pro card.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
he had just got his PRCA card. He'd been with an IRA for a long, long time, and he got an opportunity to get a PRCA card.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it would have taken him. I really don't. I mean, it could have taken him to the NFR because he was that good.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he was very quick. You could ask. I mean, you talk to Lisa. I mean, Lisa. When you could talk to Lisa, he would tell you, Buddy was one of the best in the business.
And 1978, Preston Fowlkes, IPRA?
Open.
Yeah.
Only his own association.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of those around? Like when you were riding barebacks,
There was an ACA, the Alabama. We started off as the Alabama Cowboy Association.
Okay.
And then it became the American Cowboys Association, and had it down here in the Southeast,
Okay.
So we had that in the finals, different places, whether it be Montgomery, Mobile, somewhere.
Okay.
So that was kind of the association we were in when I was riding bucking horses.
Right.
And then with Preston, I went to his finals, which were in Mountain Cove, where y'all have the deal at.
Yeah,
Mountain Cove.
absolutely.
I went to his finals in the bareback riding a couple of times, and
nice.
when I was announcing, Preston would let me announce a rodeo, and then I'd get on my horse in the slack.
Okay. So let me back up. Okay. Now this is new.
Yeah.
I thought you'd said enough of the rough stock riding, enough of the bareback riding. I'm now on a microphone. No,
not yet.
not yet.
Not yet.
So how many years did you do double duty?
Maybe 2.
2 years.
Yeah.
And then he'd say, okay, we'll put you in the slack.
The last bucking, yes, he did.
Okay.
Last bucking horse I ever got on was in Mountain Cove.
Really?
Yeah, I got on my horse on Friday night. I drew a horse that wasn't any good on Saturday night for the last one. And he came up to me and he said, listen, I know you don't want to get on this horse, and I know you're kind of retiring from bareback riding. If you don't want to get on this horse, you don't have to, and it won't cost you no fees or no nothing. And I thought about it. It was just that within that time I said, I'm done.
Really?
Yeah.
Enough.
I'm done.
Enough.
I don't ride it. I'm done with bareback horses. This is what I want to do. I want to be an announcer.
Yeah. And for our listeners, describe now when I was there, I parked up by the show barn up on top. There was an asphalt runway where the fellow that owned the place would fly into,
Right.
and down around the corner, wasn't a half mile probably from where I'm staying, big old barn, and there was an arena.
Yep.
Talk about that.
Oh, it's just, when you the mountains that were around you, this is a beautiful place. I'm talking about beautiful, and we would go there every year, and they would fill it up, the stands, and it was just a very unique place.
Yeah.
For him to have his finals.
And all the toughs were there.
All the toughs were there. They were.
Yeah. And you got to announce that.
Oh yeah, 2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And over time, they stopped having it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know where he took it after that, because when I ended my tour with Preston, a guy by the name of Butch LeMay, who was a bronc rider.
Yeah.
And Butch had heard me because he was coming over some of the Preston's rodeos, and he had heard me announce some. And he went back out and talked to a guy by the name of Tom Abishire. Tom used to be the president of the IPRA. He owned Toma Sports, and he produced a lot of rodeos, building rodeos out in Oklahoma and stuff.
Okay.
And so Tom called me and said, listen, he introduced who he was and says, I'd like for you to come out here. And so I went out to Tom's place and did a couple of rodeos for him, and we fell in really close friends. And I worked for Tom, and that opened the door for me to go to work for Vicky and Delane Long.
Okay.
From their rodeo company. They had rodeos up in Kansas, Nebraska, and all that kind of stuff. And so I worked on several rodeos for Delane and Vicky for a long time out in Oklahoma and Kansas and Nebraska. Went to work for Joe Simons. Joe,
Minnesota.
Joe, in Minnesota. Did several rodeos up there in Minnesota, Wisconsin, stuff like that for Joe. And then I had the opportunity to go work for Jimmy Magazinger.
So when you went to the building rodeos in Oklahoma, did you get your IPRA card then?
Yeah.
You did?
And I couldn't tell you what year it was. I mean, you could try that one. I would tell you, well, maybe it was 82,
Early 80s.
81. Yeah, early
We'll call
80s.
it
early 80s, I had my IPRA card.
And when you went up with Longs and all that, that was all IPRA.
Mostly
Joe Simon?
mostly IPRA stuff, yes.
Okay.
All of it was IPRA.
Okay.
Went to work for Jim and Maggie. It was still IPRA.
Out of Michigan.
Yep, IPRA.
You bet.
And that's when they had all the great bucking horses. And so I stayed up there for a couple of years and just great run, great rodeos. Jim Zinger, one of the best rodeo guys in this industry.
Yeah.
I mean, producing rodeos, we'd get there, everything set up. He's so... he has everything just lined up, and rodeos were so easy to do, and I enjoyed working for Jim and Maggie a whole bunch. And then, I just felt I needed I'm kind of a Southern guy.
Okay.
So I kind of got away from that, and I came down to this part of the country and went to work for Ken Treadway.
Okay. IPRA still.
IPRA still.
But so what kind of time were you out on the road when you were doing all that stuff you just described? I mean, you out for a month, you out for 2 months, you coming back home?
Like with Jim and Maggie, I'd leave in probably in May,
and
come home in September.
You had the whole run.
I had the whole run, and every weekend.
Every weekend you're somewhere.
Somewhere.
Okay.
Fair rodeos and all that. When I was working for same thing out west, when I went out there, I would stay for the entire summer. Because they had all those fair rodeos, and we were just here, there,
And driving a car at that point? What were you doing?
I had a pickup truck, and had a living quarter. I had a trailer, just a regular trailer at the time. Before I got my living quarters trailer, and before I started kind of when I went to work for Jim and Maggie, I started doing some horseback announcing.
Oh, you did?
Yes. And
okay.
I kind of picked that up. When I did a little bit when I was with Preston.
Yeah.
And I really liked the horseback announcing.
How did that change for you?
It changed the whole atmosphere for me because, as an announcer, a lot of times they put you in an announcer stand, and if you don't have a really good arena director, and very few contractors have a good arena director, don't have any arena director, somebody else runs rodeo. And if you don't have somebody giving you information, you have no clue what we're doing now. So you just got to make it up. So being a horseback, I can go get the information. I can ride up to the bucking chutes and look at the stock contract and say, who's this?
Right.
Or what's that? Right. Or go to the judge and say, what's the score?
Yeah.
It kind of
connected you.
I'm connected and a little bit of control.
And how did that change for the fan dynamic?
I think it's the difference in watching television and listening to the radio.
Okay.
When they can see the guy that's talking.
Yeah.
And then I had a good horse. I had a paint horse at that time. Then I got a medicine hat paint that everybody just fell in love with because he was white. Twister. He was white. And everybody wanted to know where the white horse is at. Where's the white horse?
And closer to the audience?
You ride right there to the fence, and you're really close to the audience. And I'd watch Phil, do it. Phil Gardner. Yeah, I'd watch Phil. And he worked the arena really good, and I kind of I wanted to emulate him in working the arena, and that's staying out of the way.
Yeah.
You don't need to get in the way. I'd find me a corner. I want to get in a corner over here.
Yeah.
Then when it was my time, I knew where I needed to go, and I'd be where I needed to be. But most of the time, just trying to stay out of the way. Don't want to get in the way of the pickup men. Don't want to get in the way of anybody else. So,
Yeah.
I like it. I like being a horseback.
Tell us about Twister.
I kind of came upon him here in my own community right here. He was 3 years old, and when I first started him, and I took him with my other horse, and we went to some rodeos, tied him out, and let him watch it, and he was still 3. And I rode him in a parade one day at Lake City, Florida. I was doing a rodeo there, and I rode him in the parade, and boy, he didn't bobble. I mean, the sirens, the bands were playing, and I rode him, and I'm like, this is not. He should be like flipping out, Not him. He just kind of took it, and that night I went to the rodeo, and I had my old horse. I saddled him up, and I saddled Twister up, and I said, I'm going to ride this old horse in the first part of the show, and I'm going to ride old Twister at the end during the bronc riding, the bull riding, and all that. So they were dancing around him. So I did, and boy, nothing bothered him. He just stood there. And I never saddled my old horse again.
Really?
No, never did.
Okay.
Until the day I put him down.
And
Twister was in until he was 23.
23 years.
He was 23 years. 20 years I rode him.
My goodness.
20 years I rode him.
A lot of country you guys traveled together.
We did. We traveled a bunch of it. Yeah. Charlie Lowry said one time, he says, that dude is bomb-proof. We had clowns shooting bombs after a minute, and everything else. So there was one clown that had something I didn't like, and he didn't like, and there was a car. They wouldn't wanted to try to run it under you.
Oh,
until you threaten to shoot them or something like that.
yeah,
then they'll run it at you no more.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't even make sense. Before we go past Jim and Maggie Zinser, J-Bar-J,
Yeah.
you was in there the era of the big Bronx.
Yeah.
Well, you got any that stand out for you that you can remember?
They all stood out to me.
Yeah.
I know the one time that I went to, we did the rodeo in Detroit at the State Fair.
At State Fair.
Yeah, at the State Fair in Detroit. And he built the colts. I think either the mid performance, there was 3 or 4 performances there, and just one performance he brought the colts in. And it's the only time that I saw timed event guys off their horses and just looking over the fence watching these. It was just amazing to watch these young colts buck, and then the guys, that's when, Bobby Cooper and Justin Rowe, all those guys were coming and getting on him, but to watch those colts in that one performance, I'd never seen anything quite like that, with those good of horses.
Yeah. What a strength.
They put on a show, they really did. Jim Zinser understood the genetics behind good bucking horses.
Sure.
He did. He was a good bucking horseman.
He was one of the first guys to do it.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Knew how to put it together. All started with that Midnight.
Yep.
Or Nightmare, excuse
Nightmare.
me. I always do that. Nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. And you mentioned Charlie Lowry.
Yeah.
Tell us about Charlie.
Well, after I kind of, I went to work for Ken for a few
Ken,
years.
yeah,
Ken Treadway. I worked for
So
him.
talk about Ken.
I was in the
sorry.
IRA,
Yeah.
and Ken put on great rodeos. Had lots of them. Ken put on lots of rodeos.
Yeah.
And I stayed over there. I don't know, probably 10 years with Ken. That was my living. And just having to drive through Atlanta to get over there was the only bad thing.
That was the
I
only
live in
bad thing.
Montgomery, and I had to drive through Atlanta every weekend. And that was the only really bad part of going over there. And I stayed, as long as you need to stay. And then I left. I had gotten my pro card by then. I was on the board of directors in IPRA for a little while, and so when I did that, then I got my PRCA card. But then I went to work for Charlie.
Yeah, and I don't want to fly by. I want to stay with the IPRA too. Okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, you were on the board.
Yes,
you were
sir.
on the board.
Yes,
Talk
sir.
a little bit about that experience.
Well, we were in Tulsa. That's the first time that I'd really been around. I went out to Tulsa to the finals a couple of times, and then I just knew we were wanting to change some things. Things needed to be changed, and we had a group in Oklahoma City. Was the Oklahoma City All Sports Association, I believe. They were really came after us and wanted to have a finals in Oklahoma City again. They'd lost the NFR to Las Vegas, and they wanted something in their town, and so they came and talked to the IPRA, and I think I want to say Ronnie was on the press, but he might not have been. J.O. might have been in there. I don't know. But anyhow, we all went down to Oklahoma City, and we visited with him. We talked to him and looked at the deal and thought, this is where we need to be if we want to grow.
Yeah.
This is a place to grow, and so we moved the finals, to Oklahoma City.
Big decision.
It was a very, very big decision, to leave a home that they were comfortable with.
Yep. Yep.
And Bruce kind of ran things. Bruce Lurkey, he ran things at the finals at that point, and Bruce was the smartest man in this business. I mean, I don't care who you can. Nobody argue that. As far as building rodeos goes, there was nobody any smarter in production than Bruce Lurkey. And a lot of guys all learned from him, So
Speaking of which, you went to his rodeo management school?
I did. I went to Bruce's rodeo.
Tell me.
Preston sent me there. Preston said, "You need to go there. You need to go over there." And of course, Bruce and Preston just lived kind of like around the corner from each other.
Okay.
Preston was living in Prim Springs, Tennessee, and Bruce was living up there somewhere near Interstate 40. So I went to the school, and it was very good. I learned a lot.
How old would you have been?
Oh, shoot. That was after I had started announcing for him. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I was probably,
Early 80s
Yeah,
again?
yeah, it was early 80s. It was before I was married. So, anyway, it was probably 26, 27.
Tell me about that.
It was very good. The school was tremendous. You learned a lot. I learned a lot from, how to look at a rodeo from the very beginning and say, all right, and here's a great example for every rodeo. I want to put myself as a fan, and I'm at home, and what's going to get me to your rodeo? Start with, I don't want to be there.
Okay.
So what's going to get me to your rodeo? Okay, so all right, well, so you won my kids over. All right, I'll let you have that. The kids are hammering on me. The wife's tired of listening to them, so she says, we're going to the rodeo.
Yeah.
So I'm getting up out of my easy chair. I don't want to. It's Friday night or Saturday. That makes no difference. I'm going to go to your rodeo, so I'm coming out to your rodeo. And when I step out of my car, or even before I get out of my car, Bruce took it all the way from the parking lot. You gotta make him a fan when he pulls into the parking lot. Don't make him mad right off the bat, because you'll have a long time getting him back during the performance. Then he would go through everything, from the time he parks, how's the parking, then you get to the ticket booth, the ticket office. How is that going to be? How is that experience? Do you have somebody in there that really knows how to make change? Somebody knows how to figure stuff, get them the right ticket, and then they walk through that door, they enter the rodeo, from the vendors to the concession people, all the way when he sits down in that chair. Is he happy, or is he going to make him? We got to win this one man. We don't care about the woman and the kids.
Right.
They're kind of already there. Right. You got to win him over.
Yeah.
And so you look at it and you say, all right, I got to win that guy over. So something during this show, you've got to make a fan out of him. I don't care what it takes, but you got to make a fan out of it.
Yeah.
And that's what you work on, And then, with Bruce, he did great openings. Everything was, kick that show off with a powerful opening, Then you're going to buck horses. That's always good. That's easy to sell.
Yeah.
Then a good act.
Yeah.
You got to grab them with an actor, clown, whoever it might be.
Yeah.
Then you go to the timed events. You try to get through them as quickly as you can. Just kidding to all you Tommies out there.
Good pace.
Yeah, you got a good pace, but then you have another good act. Boom.
Yeah.
Bring him another good act in there,
Yeah.
He was more into the acts, between every event, but still on the time clock.
Yeah.
Keeping pace. We got to keep it moving, and stuff like that. And just, I put on great rodeos. And so I learned, that about rodeo, and then, also the marketing, how to break down a rodeo as far as the money's concerned, how much to allow for marketing, how much to allow for this and this and this, so.
Yeah. I've been so curious about him. I'm a businessman from the financial end of it, and I would think it's a big deal to go to one building a year and be responsible for all the things he was responsible for, yet he went to 20 buildings a year. Yeah. How was he built? How would you describe him?
I don't know if I can say that over the air with Bruce. You had to have an iron gut to start with. When you walk into a facility back in those days, and it was 100 to 150,000. Before you opened the doors.
Right.
Hoping somebody was going to come.
Yeah. Oh, I can't imagine.
And then going to a lot of the buildings up north, you're having to deal with union people.
Yeah.
There's things you can't do. You can't lift nothing. That's we got to call a union guy to come do that. These ones down south, they're a little more lax and easier to work with. But a lot of the buildings were really tough to work, and I know it was for him.
And bringing in the dirt.
You got the dirt people.
All the marketing. And
so many of those markets, so many of those towns did not have place really for contestants. It was, you had to figure all that out.
Yeah. In the middle of winter.
So he had a lot of good people that worked for him.
Yeah.
Front people that went, that helped put the logistics together. And that's what you got to have somebody who's really has a lot of logistics in their mind, thinks about all that stuff, And we're talking about not just the contestants, not just the dirt in the arena, but the livestock that's coming, because it's coming in here, but it's not staying in here. It's got to go out and it's got to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we got to have a place. We all this has to be set up months in advance, where we're going to house livestock, All right, what about coming in, bringing it in, unloading it, and then loading it back out and taking it to that wherever you're keeping it at, wherever you're housing it at.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it,
And marketing, your front men.
Oh, yeah. When you get ready to market, especially in those major markets, everything is so costly, radio, television, print stuff. It's all very expensive, and as it is this day and time. And he didn't have the luxury of what we have our cell phones.
Social media.
Social media.
Yeah.
He didn't have the luxury of that, because that wouldn't even have made it better.
Yeah.
But he was a superstar in our business, and he has been, and he will be always missed. And like I said, anybody in the building business today or in the past all came through Bruce Lurkey somehow.
Yeah.
I can just start naming them to you, and yep, there he worked for Bruce, or no, he worked for Bruce, and then that other guy worked for him, and he still had to. It's still out there,
Yeah. And Bruce shared everything.
He did. Oh yeah. I mean, Steve Gander. Steve worked for him. Leroy Mason worked for him. He was another producer guy. Jerome Robinson, who was with the PBR. That's where Jerome learned all the logistic stuff. Working for Steve and working around, knowing about Bruce and everything. They all did it.
And what kind of person shares the secrets?
Yeah.
Shares the knowledge?
Yeah. He's like, hey, if you can go be successful at it.
Yeah. And never thought you're going to be my competitor.
No, really. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's right. Exactly.
And great stories of famous, Harper Morgan coming to town. And
Harper Morgan, when they bought at Steiner, when James and them bought Bobby Steiner and Tommy Steiner out at that time, they were at least smart enough to realize we need to go hire some people.
Yeah.
And they went to Nashville and they hired Ken Knopp.
Yep.
They hired Liesel and they hired McEnany, so they kind of hired
They
the
took
guts.
his talent.
They took the guts out of it, but Bruce was sharp. Now Bruce come back and replaced it with some other good people. There's other good guys that fell right into the. He never missed a beat. He got right going on.
Yep.
Phil, and Bill and Ken Knopp, they all fell right in down there and had a great successful career with James and with Ralph.
What's amazing on the Longhorn story is how many people talent he really launched.
Oh, it is
put out in the
very
world.
much so, very much so. From rodeo clowns to, cowboys to personnel, people who really learned the business through Bruce.
Yeah. Yesterday I met Sid
McFarland.
Yeah.
Oh, McKissick.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and he was a bullfighter for him for a couple of years.
He was.
Great episode's going to be coming out with Sid.
And Sid was a dirt man too. He did the dirt for the PBR for a long time, and on all them buildings, they would fly him in, and he did the logistics for all the dirt work. He would get it moved into the buildings and make sure it got moved out of the buildings when it was all said and done.
Really?
You didn't know that about it, though.
I did not know
that. Boy is pretty sharp.
Yeah, and he talked about the first time. You'll have to listen to that episode. First time he met Bruce, I guess it was goofy. He had gone to Nashville to the house or whatever and met him. And they're going to have to tune in to that episode
to learn about that.
I'm not going to give that away.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
So you got your IPRA card. You go at a very young age. You go to Bruce Lurkey's Rodeo Management School, which is like a college education almost.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And by this time, you're getting pretty polished. You're getting pretty comfortable behind the mic. You're still in the announcer stand.
I am.
And per my records, you announced the International Finals Rodeo 4 times.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. First in it's IFR 19.
Yeah.
Which would be like 88?
Probably. Yeah.
Maybe?
88 it was, I think. Yes,
okay.
Sir. Yes, sir.
And with Cheyenne Pipkin.
Yep.
Talk about Cheyenne.
Cheyenne was a good guy. He I don't know what's happened to him. May not even be around. That's how sad it is in our industry. Sometimes we lose touch with people and everything. Cheyenne was a very good announcer. A lot of West Coast rodeos, I think. He did a lot of rodeos out west and stuff. So I enjoyed working with Cheyenne. He was a good guy.
Had you done any two-announcer stuff at all before you got to the finals?
No, very little. Very little. Just me by myself.
What was that transition like?
It was okay, as long as you go in knowing what you got to do and not try to, you just got to realize everybody's got a part. We've all got a part in the business, in this production, and we just got to realize our part and try to stay in our lanes.
Okay. Yeah. And was the management at that point pretty specific? Here's what I'm looking for from you two boys?
Yeah. That you kind of know what's, hey, here's the sponsors we got to hit, and this is the way, we're going to start it this way, and this way you do this, you do that. So, we pretty much knew right up front what was taking place, what was required of us and everything. Yeah.
And that sets you off on a 3-year run. So 19, 20, IFR 20, you announced with Danny Newland. Mm-hmm. And then you get in IFR 21 with the legend, the Longhorn Rodeo legend, Mr. Jerry Bellis.
Yes, we had the 2 Jerrys.
Yes,
we did.
What do you remember about that?
Oh, Jerry was just sitting on the announcer stand working with him. See, when I was riding bucking horses, Jerry was announcing rodeos then, and he was one of the first announcers I really listened to, because he worked for David Morgan down in Florida, and he did a bunch of rodeos in my part of the country. So I would go and I was able to listen to Jerry Bellis, and a lot of what I got came from him, you know. And so it was just an honor to be able to work the International Finals Rodeo with him, always. It was just cool.
Okay.
It was really
and
cool.
at that point, it moved to Oklahoma City.
It had moved to Oklahoma City. We got it moved there. I was contract acts director when we first moved up there, and with the help of the guys from the Oklahoma City All Sports Association, we started the first contract act show.
The Contract Act Showcase.
The showcase is when it started.
Okay.
It was our first year in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
So we invited everybody to town. They came and they competed. They won money, and they won buckles. Our people got buckles. So they all got really nice buckles for that, for the few years. Well, every year since.
So for our listeners, describe a little bit what the Contract Act Showcase is.
Well, if you're an announcer, if you're an announcer, you hope you draw a really good act. Or if not, then it challenges you, to really see how good you really are.
Yeah.
So, and then it's an act, you go out there and we had it set up, and it was on its kind of infancy. So we were trying to figure it out as well. How do we score this, and who are our judges, and let's figure out how to score all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then we had 5 judges, I think it was, and everybody would mark their sheets, and then at the end of it, we would get those sheets back from them, and we would just tally the scores back together, and this was the winner or that was the winner,
and it was dress act.
Yes.
It was funny man. It was
bullfighters and barrelmen and announcers.
Okay. Yep. And belt buckles.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I remember I think it might have been the first or the second one that we did.
Yeah.
There in the city.
Yeah.
A guy came out and he just started trick roping, and my mouth dropped open. I'd already talked to this guy several times, and he had an English accent, and I thought, this is not going to be real good. He's from England.
Yeah.
And it can't be that good.
Right.
But then he started.
Yeah.
And my mouth dropped open, as everybody's mouth in this building did. And they were like, I didn't know you could do that. And did he just do that? Did he just do the Texas skip on a unicycle? Did he do the Texas skip and not even move his feet? How does he? And Vince Bruce.
Yeah.
Had stepped into our presence, and none of us knew him. Nobody knew him. Vince Bruce. Nobody could ever trick rope like this man. There's not been a talent in our industry, and I don't want to belittle anybody, but you can go talk to Ryder. Ryder Kiesner right now is one of the hottest guys going with the trick rope, and Ryder will tell you he wants to be Vince Bruce.
Okay.
I mean, he was a superstar. Everybody, when he left the arena, I saw people leaving their seats going down the stairs to try to catch him, to book him, know.
Yeah.
And so he was that amazing. If you've never watched him trick rope, you missed something.
Yeah. And when we talk about a Contract Act Showcase, you just bring something up. It isn't just for competition. There's a lot of rodeo committee men. There's a lot of stock contractors there.
Yep. And one thing good about it, that our directors in IPRA since that time have kept it alive.
Yeah.
And they've kept it going.
Yeah.
I went to it this year, and so I'm glad they still keep that going.
You bet.
And they've done a really good job.
Yeah.
Hats off to all those directors.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great for the business.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I mean, how to get out there and get seen.
Exactly.
And it's not expensive to enter.
No, it's not.
Now it is the third week of January, whatever.
Yeah, but do you want to show what you've got?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. You got to, if you want to work, you got to show somebody. And that's one time most of the stock contractors, a lot of the committees are there, and they're looking for something new.
You bet.
Vince Bruce that day could have booked every rodeo for probably 10 years.
Yep.
Yep.
In your final year, IFR 25, again with Jerry Bellis.
Yes, sir.
And what do you remember about that year?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
You're asking me now.
For sure.
I don't remember very much. I mean,
Yeah.
A great year. It was.
Yeah.
It was a great year, and I had my mind. What I was wanting to do, and
Yeah.
the IPRA. We're always looking to grow in our industry, and I hope everybody's that way.
Yeah.
You're wanting to always better yourself, and
Yeah.
I love the IPRA, and I have a gold card. I still have it. I've had a card ever since the first day I bought a card.
Yeah.
But then I also got a pro card.
Yeah.
I got a PRCA card. I hate
Yeah.
the pro, the whatever you want
Yeah.
to call them. But I got a PRCA card, and I started working some PRCA rodeos. Charlie, Lowry, and did some for Leroy Mason, and so I started that business, and it's just been kind of good ever since.
Okay. And you got to have 2 cards to keep your book full.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have 2 or 3 if you want them, But
Yeah.
now I've got it down just to 2, and that's all I want. I don't want any more.
And you mentioned Charlie again.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about Charlie.
Charlie Lowry, he's kind of Mr. Cowboy of the South. I mean, he is, he always told me, he says, I didn't have the most talent. He said, but I had the most try. Mm-hmm. And he did. I mean, he hustled. He came out of this part of the country, and he made the NFR, made the IFR, before he ever made the NFR. But he went to Cheyenne one time and had the most money won of any cowboy there was, in the all-around. He won our circuit lots of times. He was just a tremendous cowboy. He was a cowboy. That's just the bottom line to it,
Yeah.
Then he while he was competing, he roped calves, he bulldogged, and after that, he knew he still wanted to be in rodeo, and being a stock contractor was the way to do it. So, he put him together a little string of stock, and everything's history since then. He's had world champion bucking bulls in the PRCA 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
He's had a lot of great livestock. He's taken to our circuit finals, taken to the IPRA finals as well. He took some stock this year. In fact, they won a couple of 2 or 3 rounds on his livestock this year.
Really?
At the IFR, so he's a member of the IPRA as well. And in the PCA finals, I saw he had livestock there. They won 2 or 3 rounds on bucking horses and bulls of his. So he's still going and doing well.
Yeah. That's excellent.
So it was a good run with Charlie too. I
bet.
still work some for him.
Love when the cowboys become contractors.
Yes, sir.
They got that innate understanding.
They do, and they do.
So who would you say was we all have influences, right? We all have influences.
Yes,
Paul Harvey, I disclosed that.
Yeah.
Paul Harvey, stand by for news. Who was, if you could emulate someone?
Clem McSpadden. Because he announced my hometown rodeo here for a lot of years. So I listened to Clem announce, and he was a gentleman.
Yeah.
He was great for our industry.
Yeah.
He was a superstar. I don't think he ever lost that where he came from. Even though he produced it, the finals. When I first started announcing, you look back and you think, what would I've changed in my business? Mm-hmm. And he came here to the rodeo, and I had started announcing. I was working for Preston, so I went to Clem and I asked him. I said, "Man, I want to do something. I want some advice. What you got?" And he says, "I'm gonna give you this advice.
Yeah.
First of all, and I give this advice right now to all you young guys in this business."
Yeah.
He says, "Don't make rodeo your living."
Really?
He says, "Have a living, and just make the rodeos where you can go to them on the weekends best you can."
Okay.
And enjoy them. He says, when you get there, don't try to sleep under the truck. Stay in a good motel somewhere. You make enough money at the rodeos. Stay in a good hotel, and then go home because you got something else that's really making you a living over here. Whether it be the cattle business, like you work for Toyota, whatever. You got something that's shoring you up. Don't make rodeo your living, because at the end of the ball game, there is nothing there. There's no retirement there, guys. I'm telling you this now.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Just kind of keep that in mind. Don't try to go out there and that's all you want to do is rodeo.
Yeah.
I hear guys tell me all the time, I say, "Man, I'm living a dream." You live long enough, you'll find out that's a nightmare coming at the end if you're not careful.
So
be a business person.
Yeah.
Put it away. Put it back.
Need a 401k.
You need a 401k. Big time.
And
he invited me to go to Oklahoma that year. I mean, he says, "Hey, listen, I'm producing the final." He was producing the NFR that time. And he says, "Hey, I want you to come out to Oklahoma. I'll get you a job, and you can listen to all the announcers out there, blah, blah, blah." He invited me about, and I didn't go. I did not go. I often wonder what things would have been.
Yeah.
How things different would have been if I'd have went.
Yeah.
But the only thing I can say now, and I look back at it, and I have a 28-year-old son.
Yeah.
If I'd have went to Oklahoma that year when Clem invited me out, that I might not have.
Yeah.
Because I was doing a rodeo in Pennsylvania, Monongahela, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Yeah.
And with a family up there, the Cox family.
Okay.
And this little fella came available. Walt Cox, who helped put on the rodeo up there, he was a doctor, and he delivered this little boy and called me and said, "Hey, y'all want a little boy?" And I can't tell you the rest of that story, so anyhow, I have a 28-year-old son now, And it's because I was in Monongahela, Pennsylvania at the right time, and when I was supposed to be. So sometimes God's got hold of things. And I think it says, we lay out plans, but God's got the last say-so to all this. And so surely I might have went out there and might even done the NFR. I don't know. Could have done whatever. But I got a 20-year-old son because I went to another direction. I don't know.
Isn't that amazing?
It is. I don't know. I think sometimes I wonder, but I'll take the kid.
I would say.
I would take the kid over NFR for 20 times.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And 28 years old, and is he following in Dad's footsteps?
He's a sound guy. He's a sound guy, does music and sound. In fact, he was in Davie, Florida, him and Roger Mooney were down there working one this weekend together. So, yeah. He's done really good. He works with the Surveys out west during the summertime. He got a good run with them, and they've kind of taken him under wing, and I really appreciate what they do, So good people. That's how you find the right people in this business to work for. It's like when you're rodeoing. If you want to be good at this business, find the right people to get in the truck with.
For sure.
You get in the wrong truck, you ain't making it.
Yeah.
I done seen it way too much. I've been in this business now for almost 50 years.
Yeah.
And if you get in the wrong truck, you're pretty much done.
Okay.
Get in the right truck, right people. Play with the right ones.
Yeah.
If you're going to play golf, go play with golfers. Don't play with hackers. You play with hackers, you'll be a hacker.
Yeah. Good point.
That's why people don't like to play with me.
And it isn't just from a riding skills you want to get in the right truck.
Yeah. No. The riding skills are a little bit of it. It's the mental game.
Yeah.
Them guys get your head right.
Yeah.
The wrong guys, they'll have your head messed up.
Okay.
I mean, we've seen this in our business so long. I've done it so many years. I've seen so much talent that's been wasted. I mean, really wasted. Guys I thought rode as good as anybody in the world, but never went anywhere.
Just didn't take care of business?
Didn't take care of business.
Uh-huh.
A lot of them didn't want to leave home.
Yeah.
They like being around the house more than they wanted to go on the road. That white
It's
line out there, it's not for the faint of heart.
So back to Clem's advice.
Yes, sir.
Get you a job. Certainly for 30 years from now.
Yeah.
Right? Got to have a 401k, got to have a retirement plan.
Yes, sir.
But was he also indicating, and he was into business. He was a congressman?
He was.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much of that was that balance? How much was taking your mind maybe off rodeo for a little bit, right? Making you a good living and being fresh and hot when you hit back out.
Right. I think it was just the fact is he wanted to make sure that you didn't just go out there and become dependent upon rodeo.
I like that.
You're not dependent upon it.
Yeah.
Here's something over here that's really you're sustained over here. But the rodeo, you just go and have fun. You go and enjoy it. But if you're out there, and man, you're just having to pick up cans to make a living, to make a little bit of money, and it's hard. Mentally it gets even harder. So if you got something back here that's you can pick and choose where you really want to go.
Yeah.
And Clem, it was very good advice. I did not take it.
Yeah.
I tried to make rodeo my living, and once again, God has to step in and say, kind of work things out for me. But He's always done that, though.
Yeah. Always. We just gotta turn ourselves down just enough to hear.
And I can't tell you how many times, and where I am at right now. It has to be God. I can't explain it. It has to be God.
It has to be God.
It does.
You talk about your son, Kai, and he's doing sound and music and big change in rodeo.
Yeah.
That never was a thing.
No, we started off, I was running, let's see, I forget, I think we started off, it was cassette players.
Was you running cassette?
Yeah, and then you'd have to set all these cassettes for this different music. You had probably 30 or 40 of them, and have to have two players. So then once you set it, you got to take your finger and turn that tape back just a little bit, so that when you hit play, you got something music, boom,
Yeah.
And then it went to a cart machine, and I thought I died and went to heaven. We had a cart machine, man. Them things automatically just loaded up, just hit the button, and you got music. You didn't have to do nothing,
Yeah.
And then they come out with a mini cart, and that was even better than that.
Yeah.
And then somebody came out with the computer program.
Yeah.
And it's been it's changed everything in our business. Now, for me, because I've kind of got used now to them guys doing the music, I don't want to have to. And I did all my music. And
You did?
I did it for a long time. And it's very hard.
I couldn't do it.
And not now, I couldn't even.
No, I never could.
Yeah. I could do it back in the day, when I went to work for Preston. You have to understand, Preston Fowlkes started me.
Yeah.
And if he ever hears this, he may kill me. But, we had on the announcer stand, we had timers and secretaries, and I had children, and I'm trying to run music, and it's real hectic, but you learned how not to be so focused that you can't think and do it at the same time. You had to work. And it was good for me.
Yeah. Man, I could never do it.
A lot of distractions, but we made it work.
Yeah, yeah. And it changes when you start announcing on horseback. You got to be prepared in a very different way.
Yeah, you do. And I like it so much because, like I said, once again, I'm out there. I can see who I'm talking to. They can see me. Mm-hmm. And the main thing, though, to me is that I don't lose the ability not to have a little control in the arena of information, not to try to run the deal, but just the information that I'm getting, I can go get instead of waiting for somebody to give it to me.
Yeah.
I don't like waiting, when you
so
need
that,
it.
Absolutely. And that's a big change, right? We're talking about
Very
sound
big.
and music where
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Nope.
What else has changed? What else do you think's fixing to change? What's headed our way?
What is headed our way? We have got to do a really, really good job and a better job. And this is one thing Bruce was good at, is the entertainment part of it, because the entertainment dollar is so tight. From high school athletics to, concerts to everything now. I mean, football. So we've got to do a good job as rodeo committees and stock contract of making sure that we're not just putting on an event. We have to add the entertainment factor with it, but yet still not losing that lure of the West.
Sure.
Because them people didn't come just to, be entertained, but they did come to be entertained, but yet they want to see that West. They want to see the cowboy hats. They want to see the cowboys and the cowgirls,
Yep.
You wear your hat around somewhere and the little kids say, there's a cowboy. Yeah. There's a cowboy, Mama.
Yeah.
So we have to do that. And I think that's, I think your good committees, your good producers and stuff like that, and your good rodeo committees, they understand that, and they're still being very successful at it.
Yeah. And coming back full circle to where Bruce Lurkey found the niche.
Yep.
Entertain 'em. They said out west, it's east or west of the Mississippi. It's a rodeo. It's competition.
They come and sit there and drink beer, just enjoy somebody roping calves all day long. We'll sit here keep roping. We're good up here,
Yeah.
And back this way is a totally new ball game, and out west. And when we say out west, we go to California and stuff out there.
That far.
Cotton Roster Day, it was totally different out there.
You bet.
In the middle part of the country, hey, we're gonna just sit here and watch them rope steers all day long.
Yeah.
Not over here. We're not. We're gonna go to the bathroom a lot. We want something to entertain us, and it's got to last a certain amount of time.
Yep.
2 hours, 15 minutes.
Yep. Get us out the door.
Let's say good night, everybody. Everybody's gone.
You bet.
And nowadays, because of all the phones and everything that kids have, I mean, they want it instant. They can't stop a second. So you got to keep it rolling. If you don't, you lose their attention. They're ready to walk out and go somewhere else.
Yeah. And have you embraced social media? Have you yourself? Are you out there?
No, not as much as I'll be. No, I'm not. No. Not like a lot of the younger guys. I see them on their hashtag and all. I don't even know what a hashtag is. They just look at a number sign to me.
Yeah.
And all that, that pound, the number. I mean, I'm like, they got me confused with all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I had to ask a lot of times. I thought LOL. I thought that meant lots of love, and I'd see people saying lots of LL to me, and I thought, man, these people are loving me. And then it comes out there's lots of laughs, and I was kind of upset about that.
Oh.
I thought it was lots of love.
Hurt your feelings.
It did. I thought they was loving me, but no, they're laughing at me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dang.
But you know what? They're listening.
They are listening.
They are listening. They are engaged.
Yeah, they are.
So you've been doing this a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling stories.
Yes.
What do you got?
Traveling stories.
Traveling stories. Our listeners love traveling stories.
Yes. We got lots of them. I mean, I remember one time we were leaving. We were in Huntington, West Virginia, and we were headed to the finals. We were headed. It was in the middle of January. We were headed to Oklahoma City, and it got snowed in. I mean, we were all trying to leave there. We were trying to make it. I mean, and of course, me, I got to be there, so I got to go. I don't care. I know you can't tell me the road's closed, but it don't matter. I've got to go. I'm going to get ahead of this thing. I'm going to go somewhere and drop down further south, or there wasn't no further south and wasn't no further north. It was just snow. I mean, we ended up having to pull over and stay in a hotel, and I mean, they shut the roads down, they shut the interstates down. We're glad we got out of Huntington when we did, because there were the ones that stayed there. I think D. Long, he stayed there 2 or 3 days because he got snowed in with the livestock. And they couldn't move nothing nowhere. Nobody could go anywhere. So they got snowed in and had to stay.
Wow.
We at least got out, and I got about halfway across the country until you finally just couldn't go any further, So
Okay.
you put up with that kind of stuff. I've been, up those rodeos in the Northeast in the wintertime when you're having to, heat your door handle on your trailer, because it's in froze, you can't get it open, So I'm like, I think I want to go do some rodeos in Florida, like in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to come up north in the summertime.
Yeah. Be
So
cool.
that's where I'm at now.
That's where you are now.
That's where I'm at now.
That's what the pattern looks like.
August, I'm in Attica, New York, and North Washington, Pennsylvania, and we got little campfires at nighttime. And these folks down here, it's 101, 102. That's in the shade somewhere.
Yeah. So what's 2025 look like?
It looks good. I mean, I'm not going quite as hard as I used to, and that's all right. That's where I think it's time for the young guys.
Okay.
I think it's time for the younger guys, and it's kind of like I can watch a lot of politicians, like the president we just got rid of. A lot of people stay too long. There's a senator from Kentucky. I'm glad he is leaving. He stayed way too long.
Yeah.
And the Republicans were talking about him and about our past president and all he had lost. Well, we had a senator who lost just as much, if not more. And I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying all that, but you can edit this if you want to. I don't care. But, it just comes a time when we need to say, what, it's time for the young guys. And we got some really good young guys coming along. We look at Garrett, we look at, Lucia, and we look at all these young guys coming along. We got some, this thing is really covered well. I mean, not only them, but we've got a lot of other guys. I just happen to know them two really well.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of young guys that I've heard and listened to that's doing really, really good.
Excellent.
So, I'm not saying I'm leaving right this second, so you guys don't be calling in my committees right this minute. But I'll call you when I get ready, and they can hire who they want to.
Okay, so 2025 still booking,
still on,
and things have changed. You got the Kickback Ranch here in Raymer.
Yes,
and 4th of July, it's hard to be away from the house.
It is.
Talk a little bit about how'd you find this place? It's beautiful, by the way.
Well, we were just kind of. It's in our community, and one day we kind of come through here, and the people who had it at that time called us about it and asked us to come to look at it. It was a kids' camp. They would have kids here every summer, and stuff like that. And so they'd kind of gotten in a little trouble, I think. I don't know how bad. I don't know anything about what they were going through, but anyway, they were looking to move it. And so Miss Mindy, my wife, and we looked at it. We really didn't want to do kids camps. Just didn't want to do kid camps.
Yeah.
But we thought, well, you know what? There's something else here. This place is really nice, and so we ended up buying it. And then we started changing a lot of stuff. We had to redo a lot of things. We put in new buildings. We added an RV park in the back here, and so now it's just a resort that people can come to. We have 5 lakes here on the property. We have a corporate meetings. In fact, this week, I don't know when this will air, but we've had, we're having classes here. We have a lot of businesses that come here. We have weddings. We have a lot of family reunions that people come here and they stay the whole weekend with us and enjoy family reunions. So that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And it takes up a lot of our time.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, how many acres?
We've got 125 acres here. I've been going every year to John Kent's in Ellicottville, New York.
Yep.
Great rodeo.
Great rodeo.
And he's going to be real mad at me, but we're still friends. And I just can't, just kind of hard to get away.
Because his is over the 4th of July.
You've done it forever. I've done it forever, and it's time I got to stay home.
Got to stay home.
I'm going to be in trouble.
Yeah. And 4th of July just booked solid.
It's booked solid.
Now, you got a lot of folks staying here now.
We do. There's a lot of work going around Montgomery, Alabama right now.
Yeah.
We got a lot of traveling nurses come stay with us. They feel comfortable. They feel safe out here.
You bet.
We have gates on either side of the property. You don't just drive in here. We got security. So, we've got a little hidden secret out here. We call it the hidden gem in southeast Montgomery County.
Absolutely. And if a person wants to come out and stay for a few months, I know we got Ken with us here, Kenny.
Kenny's he's from Attica, New York.
New York.
He's from Attica, New York.
He come down and
he stays with us now for like 3 months. Last year it was about a month and a half. And this year he's making it 3 months.
Yeah. And we got Stan with us.
Yeah, Stan has been with us for a while now.
And I mean, these guys Stan's still working from here.
Oh yeah, he works every day. He works remotely.
Yeah.
And he's got it worked out. He stays here most of the time, and he decides, well, I'm going to go to another town I'm going out west for a few days. He'll make a week. He figures out his week, and he's wherever he's at on Sunday. He camps for that whole week, and then gets up and travels on Saturday, sets up on Sunday, and then he's there for a week again. So, but he likes coming home here to kick back, he said.
You bet.
Good to have
And I tell you what, I'm staying in a beautiful place here. I'm on the second story of the Wagon Wheel Suite.
Wagon wheel number 2.
Number 2.
Yep.
And you look out my front doors over here, and you're looking at a beautiful pond.
Yep.
And everything around here is
Now
just,
you can see you got all the plugs on your wall there. You're
Yeah.
wondering, well, why they put plugs
Yeah,
up there?
I see that.
Well, I'll tell you why they put them there, because they had bunk beds that high.
I see.
All
I see.
through here. I think they had 36 kids stay in this particular room.
Really?
So they had 18 bunk beds, 3 high. Would that be 36? No, it'd be 2. Anyway, they had 36 kids in here.
Yeah.
And so everybody had to have a place to plug their cell phone in.
Okay.
So you put them up there,
Okay.
I'm telling you, that's the way it works.
They figured it out.
Yeah, and so when we took it over, we just left the plugs there, but yet
Everything else is fresh.
We changed everything, put a big bathroom in.
Nice
This
bathroom.
was just an open room.
Yeah.
And they had shared bathrooms everywhere, but we put a nice shower and everything in there and made a kitchen out of it.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Go shopping,
Yep.
get you,
Yep.
cook your own eggs and bacon here. And speaking of bacon and eggs and that sort of thing, we just had the 4th annual Cowboy Reunion here at Kickback Ranch. That was yesterday.
Yes.
That's the reason I got here.
That's right.
And this morning you made us a breakfast. Talk a little bit about that.
Kenny made that.
reunion.
Kenny Bounty, he made that. He made it for us. He was a cook at the Wyoming prison up there in Attica, New York.
Yeah.
He fed 1,700 people every day.
What was a trivia question? This was interesting. Yesterday you said, how much does it cost, or how much are they given to feed, per person, to feed 3 meals to a prisoner in Attica?
Every day.
Every day.
And a lot of people said,
$25.
$25.
Yeah.
$10.
Yeah.
$1.74
$1.74 per person
was what
for
they were given.
day.
That's what they
That's
were
what they
given.
were given for
and
the
they
day.
had to make it work. And
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
Kenny's job.
Yeah.
And he made it work.
And he made it work.
And still, everybody got fed.
You bet.
Yeah, so-
And yesterday we had pulled pork
Yep.
and
Baked
beans.
potatoes and beans.
Oh my goodness, what a spread.
Pound cakes.
Yeah.
And he put some blueberry stuff and some raspberry. He cooked all that up himself.
Oh my god, that was so good. Dessert, like you say.
Yep.
And what a great crowd.
Yeah. We had a lot of great people here yesterday.
Yeah.
These are guys that I grew up
Yeah.
in the rodeo business, and when I was young, and I was watching them compete and stuff, and guys that were in the cattle business here around me that I respected very much, and I still do respect, So it's always good to have, if you know of a reunion, an old time reunion in your area, you need to go to it, especially when you get to be our age. I went to Oklahoma City this year just to go to Red's reunion
At the IFR.
At the IFR, and I got to see Clarence LeBlanc. I haven't seen in a long time, and I love Clarence LeBlanc and his family. And I was able to see him. Ronnie Fields was there, John Clark was there with
wow.
Kelly, just got to see the Craven girls. J.O.'s 2 daughters, they were there.
Yeah.
So it was really good to see everybody. Saw Red, and Ronnie, and just everybody that I got a chance to see. It was, and that's why you need to go to. If you hear about a cowboy reunion in your area, you need to go to it, because you'll see people you haven't seen in a very long time.
You bet. And they're popping up all over Mountain
are.
Cove,
Yep, Mountain Cove,
up in
that
Georgia.
one. Yep.
Mike Swearingen,
I know, Mike. Yep.
he had his 70th birthday / cowboy reunion, and it was on the place in the barn, and
Cool.
it was amazing.
That's great.
It was amazing.
I went to the reunion in Las Vegas. I go out there every now and again to the Old Timers reunion, and it's always you see Clyde and Elsie Frost out there, and just the people that I haven't seen in a long guys. And when I grew up, they were riding bucking horses, and just amazed at watching them, and now they're going to these reunions. It's good to see them.
You bet. Great to see him. And yesterday I had an opportunity to catch up with Mindy, and she talked about Miracle Rodeo that's coming up.
Yeah, for the Southeastern Livestock Expo and Rodeo here in Montgomery. She's been putting on and producing, or the kind of in charge of the Miracle Rodeo they've had for 30 years now. And so she kind of puts that together, heads it up, and they bring in kids, handicapped children from all over the city of Montgomery. They've got a list they've been doing for a very long time. They bring them and their families in. They watch a little presentation of the rodeo. Some people rope some steers. They run some barrels, do a little opening, and then at the end of all that, they get the arena ready. Like Huntington College has a football team. Those guys come out. They volunteer. They get the arena ready, put all the stuff so they can roll their wheelchairs on the dirt on the arena floor, And they come out there and all the kids get to come on the floor. They get to ride a horse, pet a horse, ride a wagon, pet an animal, or just be around the queens. They're all there, so it's really an amazing event for a life-changing event.
And a charitable event?
It is charitable, yes. The tribe here, the Creeks, they put up quite a bit of money to invest in it as well.
Okay. And is there a charitable organization that if we can't get to the Southeast Livestock Show for the Miracle Rodeo, we could make a contribution?
You could if you wanted to contact Mindy. I think, I don't know exactly which one it's going to be this year. It could be Maine, which is they take handicapped children themselves and they take them out to the ranch and they ride them on horses. It's a therapeutic riding deal.
Nice.
So that's where last year they gave the money. They gave all the money. It's nothing kept back for anything. They give all the money, and they gave it to Maine last year. They've given it to several organizations, but last year it was Maine. I do remember that. And that, like I said, that is a therapeutic riding deal here in Montgomery that they take, some children out there. And sometimes that's good for kids or children like an epileptic or something of that nature, And it's just kind of, it's like they always say there's something about the outside of a horse that's good for the inside of a human.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, well said. Well said. So some questions.
Shoot.
Okay. What belt buckle are you wearing right now?
I can't see it. My belly's covering it up. Shut up, everybody. One of our circuit buckles.
Okay.
It's one of our circuit buckles.
Okay.
I've been fortunate enough and blessed enough that they allow me to work the Southeastern Circuit Finals.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Troy has me down there about every year.
How many years you done that now?
15, 20. I don't know.
Nice.
It's been a good little time. Been a good little run down there.
Yeah.
So, I still wear some of my IPR, my IFR buckles. I still wear them. I swap them in and out.
Do you?
Yeah.
You got them all?
I got them all.
Okay.
I got every one of them.
Okay.
And I try to wear the smaller ones because the big ones hurt more.
Yeah.
When my belly.
Yep.
Anyhow.
Yeah, and speaking of that circuit, what kind of talent you seeing coming through these days? Whether it be timed event, it be bronc riding, what do you see?
Oh man, our circuit's got some talent. We got talent in the tie down rope, and we got talent in the steer wrestling. When you got Kyle Irwin, and you got Will Loomis,
nice.
You got some guys like that are coming in. Wagus Pack is in there, 5-time world champion in the steer wrestling.
He's Southeast.
He's Southeastern circuits. Louisiana's our circuit.
Yeah.
In the bareback riding, Waylon Bourgeois, we got Taylor Broussard, and some other, guys from over there in Louisiana that rides good the same way in the bronc riding, bull riding, if they all come, if over here, if they've got enough of their circuit rodeos in, we got a lot of NFR qualifiers that have made our circuit finals, been here with us, so yeah, we've got a lot of talent here in the Southeastern Circuit, and we have a really, really great circuit finals. In fact, we have one of the richest circuit finals there are.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. And good show. Got to go see it if you're in the area.
You do. Davie, Florida. Troy Weekly and them, they know how to put on a deal. And they put on about 5 years, but they put on our circuit finals for us.
And when is that?
November.
In November. Perfect time to go down there.
9th and 10th. It is.
You bet.
Fly into Fort Lauderdale. And if you ever go down there, make sure you take the river cruise through there. And they'll tell you about all the houses. It's down to all the people, the famous people that own the houses and the big old yachts and everything. It's a cool river ride.
It's cool. And speaking of Tyler Waguespack, we saw him at the Eastern qualifier for the American.
Right.
What are you thinking about the American?
I think it's a great format. I think anything that comes along in the rodeo that's going to be a little bit different, it's always a great format. So, it's like you got to have people who think outside the box. It's like with golf. I've been watching here lately some of the night tournaments they've played. Then they come up with two guys playing two guys, and it's so they're thinking outside the box. The LOV tournament, so it's getting away from the PGA but everybody gets to see it. And I think the American here, it's when you can bring guys back out in our business,
that have retired,
and said, I'm not coming out to try to make the NFR, but I'm coming out to try to make the American. That's one rodeo. I can go to maybe 3, and if I go there and I win the million, so.
life-changing, right?
It is life-changing, very much so,
That'll feed your 401k.
It will feed your 401k, but you better go put it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you were talking about a while ago, if you win the million, like at a PBR, I really like the fact they don't give it all to them at one time.
I love it.
That is the best thing in the world.
Absolutely. Spread
a little
down.
bit. A little bit here.
You bet.
That way, in 10, 12 years down the road, you'll have it. And you could be surprised how much you mature in 10 years,
Yeah.
especially when it comes down to your funds and you see the game slipping away.
Yeah.
So,
And as far as other big rodeos, so big money with the American, what are you seeing of the WCRA?
I don't really know a lot about the WCRA. I've kind of consumed myself here in the kickback and the few rodeos I go out there and do.
Okay.
I mean, I reckon it was put pretty good. Somebody said that. They said, "Man, you've kind of been just the king of the Southeastern Circuit," and that's fine with me. I like the East. I mean, every time I go to Vegas or something, I'm always arguing for the East over here. I had one guy one time make a statement about the East, and it was a negative statement about the East, and it was about television rights and all this and this television deal, and it just kind of hit me wrong, and I stood up and I said, "Let me tell you something, guys." I said, "There's cities back east that's got more people in those cities than you got in your entire state.
Yeah.
So you can have all this out here you want to, but until you learn to get markets like Philly or New York or Chicago, until you get those markets, ain't nobody going to look at you. Ain't nobody want to talk to you because you ain't got the markets that they want to get into."
Yeah.
So I said, "Don't forget about this East."
Yeah.
And I said, we're still over here.
Bruce had it.
Bruce Lurkey owned it. He was the king of it for a long time, Yeah. And the PBR and all them understand it too because they're over here.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Those same buildings.
Those same buildings.
They're falling around behind him in those same buildings.
You bet. A lot of lessons learned, a lot of lessons taught.
Exactly.
So people you met, fan interactions, anything stand out?
Everything's. I mean, they become family to me, and my probably the biggest thing with me is when I go to one, everybody becomes family.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to Attica, New York now, and I go 3 days ahead of time just so I can visit with everybody before the rodeo starts.
Yeah.
Because when the rodeo starts, it's hard to visit with everybody, and I go see every family, everybody. We want to go see. Same thing at North Washington. I go there. I just got to go far up and enough in advance that I have a chance to visit with everybody. At Okeechobee, I've been going down to Okeechobee now for almost 30 years, and to go down there and just I have to go out far enough in advance that I can go see everybody and without leaving anybody out, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought about you and I talked about it. I said, it's kind of like you do a rodeo that long, you say, all right, I'm getting ready to retire, I'm going to quit. It's going to be the last year I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a funeral. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like somebody, I've been going and seeing these people for 30 years and all of a sudden you're not going to see them no more.
Yeah.
And
how do you stay in touch, right?
Yeah.
And these relationships, we talk about that on the show all the time. A lot of these cowboys, great broncs, great rides, great championships, but they remember the people.
It's the relationship.
It's a relationship.
That's what we create. That's right.
You bet.
That's right.
You bet.
Exactly.
And that's the cool part of it all. And we saw that.
Yeah.
We saw that. And you want to see that, go to these reunions and the stories that get told.
Yeah.
And an awful lot of them are about.
And if you go to the reunion, one thing good about our reunions for the old people is you can go to that reunion one year and go back the next year, hear the same stories, but they've changed.
They changed, yeah. And they
got better.
They did.
And then if you come back the next year, I promise you, they don't get even better than that,
Well, yesterday I walked around. I don't know if you saw me.
I did.
Had a microphone walking around.
Yeah, I was dodging you. I was running.
You were.
I was running.
You were. Yeah. And you had the awards and everything. Yeah. And man, I talked to a guy that rode his horse named Rodeo. He's a calf roper. Rode his horse into the Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
Into a bar.
Yeah.
That horse, he said, would go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he would take him anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was big enough to take him anywhere.
Yeah, and it sounded like
nobody argued with him.
Nobody argued.
Then had another guy we gave an award to yesterday. That's really good friends. Lived with Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
Who's now Health and Human Resources.
HHS. Yes,
he's head of that.
Yeah.
Oh, Sweet Pea, him and Sweet Pea in their younger days lived off down here in Lowndes County. Not gonna say what they was doing, but they lived off down there and they hung out and they was good friends. And, And the one thing I liked about him is the rest of the Kennedys didn't like him. That made him really good. When they said Caroline Kennedy was saying all these things bad about him, I'm thinking, boy, he is my kind of man.
There you go.
Anyway, I'm not gonna get into that.
No.
But Sweet Pea. And
I got to meet Sweet Pea.
Yes.
I was talking to Sid McFarland,
Yeah.
Upwatch Sweet Pea, and I got him on the microphone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
him
So we're going to hear from Sweet
Yeah,
Pea.
him and Robert were pretty good friends.
Yeah.
They're good buddies.
Yeah.
In fact, we got a guy here in town, Charlie Kendall. He used to sell all the Kennedys their hats and boots if they wanted. The mother, I was trying to remember what her name was.
Rosalind?
Rose Kennedy.
Rose Kennedy.
Rose Kennedy would call down here to Charlie. And she
Really?
says, I need 5 hats or whatever. I need 6 pair of boots. Here are the sizes. Charlie would get them all together because of Robert was down here, and I want you to send them to me.
Okay.
You know, Charlie would ship those hats and boots up there to the Kennedy family, and they'd all get
Oh, my goodness.
Christmas or whatever. You know.
They got to be cowboys.
Yep.
But
But it came from Charlie Kendall's and Montgomery, Alabama.
isn't that cool?
It is cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yep.
So here's a question. You can spend a day with anyone, dead or alive, in rodeo.
In rodeo.
In rodeo.
You limited me then.
All right. Do you want me to do it?
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
I don't know.
Who would it be, and what would you talk about?
If I could spend a day with anybody in history or just in my lifetime,
Where do you want to go? Your choice.
man, I'd like to spend some time with the disciples and talk to them and ask them questions about the Lord Jesus, and stuff like that. That's what I would. But I can't do that, I know. No. In our industry,
Yeah.
just in our business in the years I've been here or before me,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've sat and visited with a lot of them. I think about the time I was in Lafayette, Louisiana. I went down there and I was entering the bareback riding. This is before I started announcing, and I was sitting in the stands watching it because I was out the next day, and I was sitting next to this old guy, and we got to talking. I was sitting next to Freckles Brown,
Oh my, the bull rider.
the bull rider.
Bull rider.
And we just went to talking, and I questioned him. I know he was thinking, man, I wish this kid go away, but man, I just wanted to talk to him. I just wanted to find out his thoughts and everything. And I asked him, I said, if you were to tell me who's the best bull rider that you've ever known?
Yeah.
He says, somebody that's never made the finals, never been to very many rodeos, but probably could ride as good as anybody. And he told me the name, but it's been so long ago I couldn't remember the name. But that's amazing. You would think, you're thinking, he's going to say Donnie Gay, or he's going to say somebody else, Denny Flynn or something, Jerome Robinson or something,
Yeah.
But he gives this off-the-wall name, says, never been in it far, but he could outride anybody there is. But he just don't want to go nowhere.
Just didn't want to leave the
Just
house.
don't want to leave the house. He stays at home.
Yeah.
And here Freckles he was 52, 53 years old at that time. And that same year, he was in my hometown here in Rodeo in Montgomery, and he got on a little black bull, come out there and turn back. He rides him, steps off, and he's like 53, 54 years old.
Yep.
I'm like, he's the man.
He's the man. He's the man.
So I had that opportunity to sit down
Isn't that
with the
crazy?
old-time
Yeah.
cowboys. Or maybe a Bill Pickett and ask him, why did you get off that horse?
Yeah.
Just leave the steer alone.
Yeah.
Then we wouldn't have bulldogging.
Yeah.
Just stay on your horse. Don't, be like them team ropers. Throw your rope at him. And I'm not getting off and grabbing that thing.
Who'd have figured that?
Yeah, who's going to figure getting off this horse and grabbing that? And then you want to bite him.
Yeah. And all these years gone past, you're the guy that you thought you wanted to be most like, Clem McSpadden. If you had an opportunity today, what would you be asking him? Or what would you be looking for?
I'd tell him I'm sorry. I'd apologize to him for not doing like he told me to do, and say, I tried to make it my living, and if it wasn't for God, I'd have to work till the day I died. So I would apologize to him for not taking his advice to begin with, and thank him for the opportunity, that he was going to give me to go to Vegas and to Oklahoma City during the NFR. Because he was such an elder, he was a elder statesman. And the last time I remember seeing him, we were in Vegas, and I had got up and made, they were talking about, well, you got to do this. We need to do this as announcers. We need to do this. And we do this. And I stood up and, I've always got something to say. I'm opinionated, I reckon. And I got up and told him, I said, guys, listen, I said, you're all talking this stuff, what we should do, kind of like a union. I said, I'm here to tell you, we're all independent contractors.
Yeah.
What you make is your business. What I make's my business. I'm going to put a rodeo in at this money. You put in whatever money you want to,
Yeah.
And I said, we are independent contractors.
Yeah.
And we got up, and when I did, Clem, he come over there and he says, I've been trying to tell this bunch that for a long time, and nobody listens.
Wow.
And so we walked out there, we shook hands. I think that was the last time I saw Clem.
Amazing.
Good guy.
Good guy.
Good guy.
Use words like statesman and use words like gentleman.
Yeah. He was.
We need more of that.
Every bit of it.
Yeah.
He was exactly that.
Yeah.
He was kind of that old John Wayne image too, you know. He
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
He did our rodeo here in Montgomery, did the one at Kissimmee down at Silver Spurs Rodeo that was going on this past weekend, you know. So they loved his voice for a long time down there, and I was able to go do that rodeo for several years, and just thinking I'm following in the footsteps of Clem McSpadden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he brought that statesmanship
He
to
did.
the microphone.
He did. You know, there's guys, Scott Grover, them guys like, you know, and Justin McKee, you know, they all were out there in that same part of the country with Clem, you know, and they all knew him and they all respected him just like I do, you know. We all, you couldn't do nothing but respect him, you know, in our business. Because he always, I don't care how small you were and how terrible you were, he made you feel like he was, you know, right there with the rest of them. Everybody was, you know, was doing the same job.
Yeah, yeah. So, lessons learned. A lot of miles on the odometer. Advice. Young man comes to you, young lady comes to you. I don't care the subject. I don't care rodeo, why they're coming to you. What's the advice?
Just like Clem said, don't make it your living.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Have something that's always going to sure you up.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make rodeo your God.
That's interesting.
Because God
Yeah.
gets jealous.
That's quite a perspective. I like what you added on to there at the end.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
he is a jealous God.
And it's easy to worship that,
Oh.
right?
Our flesh wants to cling to anything it possibly can
Yeah.
because it goes against everything the Spirit wants.
Yeah.
And seeing as believers, that's our problem. See, we got two struggling natures. Those who are not members of the body of Christ, they have one nature, and that's the flesh. They do whatever they want to, whatever the flesh wants
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as believers, there's two spirits, and they war against one another.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the one that wins, is like the old Indian said, is the one you feed the most.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So you take it any way you want to, guys.
Well said. One final question.
Shoot it.
You've done rodeo interviews since the late 70s, newspaper, radio, morning shows, noon shows. What question haven't you been asked?
They never asked me why I look so much like Robert Redford.
I got to ask a question.
What?
Why are you related to Robert Redford?
Not really, but Jeremiah Johnson, I thought he was pretty cool. And he was kind of Jeremiah, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of clung to that, you know.
Yeah, so you've kind of, the hairstyle and the dress and everything, you kind of...
My hair's
has
white.
Robert Redford, has he influenced your announcing?
No.
Maybe with your saddle,
Not a
maybe
bit.
with your
Not
wardrobe?
a bit. Not a bit.
Not a bit.
I know it. I just kind of wanted to say that, so I didn't have nothing else to come up with because
No?
I couldn't figure out. You know, I wish I'd have talked to Elvis one time, and I didn't do that. And I just like to ask him a question. I saw him in concert twice, but I didn't get a chance to talk to him.
What would you ask him? One question.
No, why'd you leave Priscilla? She was good looking. I mean,
She was.
why did he leave her?
Shoot. Yeah. Yeah.
Just stayed at home, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes, once again, you
Fame?
get consumed with that flesh.
Well, absolutely.
Got to be careful.
Got to be careful.
We do. We all do. I've had a great time in rodeo.
Yeah.
Change a few things, maybe. I could
Yeah.
tweak. You could always tweak life. You could definitely tweak it. I'd change
Yeah.
a few things here and there.
What would you change?
Met a lot of great people, you know.
Yeah. What would you change?
I don't know. I mean, that's a hard question. What would I change? You know, I wish I maybe did a better job for the committees and the stock contractors I work for. You know, I hope I didn't short them very much. I really tried to make it entertaining. And one time, Phil Gardenhire were talking, and he helped me. He made a really, really wise statement. He says, when you're doing a rodeo, understand this. He says, these people are not here to be educated. They are here to be entertained.
Yeah.
So if you go out there with all this educational material, you're going to bore them to death.
You're going to wear them out.
You know,
Yeah.
entertain them.
Irritate them.
And that's a very positive statement.
I like that.
You know, so you got to have a a real good mix and balance there. You know, you got to tell them a little bit about old Bill Pickett in the Bulldog, but then you got to get back there to get back to that entertainment. You know, again. So
excellent.
So
excellent. Any sponsors? Anyone you want to give shout outs to?
Kickback Ranch and Event Center. Oh, that's my sponsor.
Well, absolutely. I saw it on the side of the trailer.
Yeah. You know, and Wrangler's always been really good to me. Resistol's always been good to me. Mary Jane, all the good folks there at Resistol. You know, I love the Resistol hats, and I love Wrangler jeans and shirts. That's just me. Thank you, Joe, for all you've done for me in Wrangler. So, and but mainly it's the Kickback Ranch.
Kickback Ranch.
And thank all the great Ronnie Williams, who was a vital part of my life when I was in IPRA. You know, he did a lot for me. He really did. You know, Dale Yerrigan. Same way. I can remember when Garrett was first starting, he came around, he's, you know, and just wanting to, he announced the slack for me. You know, I did get him, let's do it. You know, he's a little bitty fella, you know, he get up there and announce that slack, you know. But he had some desire and had some drive, and it's paid off now.
Oh, I'll say
it's paid off big, major for him. And so congratulations to him. And I've known, you know, a lot of them guys for a long, long time, you know. So I'm happy.
Okay.
I'm happy right now.
I can tell that.
I am.
I can tell that. I've had a heck of a day with you.
I've had a beautiful wife, and so I'm
absolutely.
thankful. Very smart woman.
Very smart. Yeah.
Very smart woman.
Yeah.
So,
you've been blessed.
I have beyond measure.
There you go.
There you go. Thank you for coming to the Kickback Ranch.
It's been a hoot.
Thank you.
Yeah. And don't forget to check them out on Facebook page. They've Kickback Ranch, Facebook. And they're also kickbackranch.net, I believe.
Take the virtual tour.
Take the virtual tour and book the actual tour with Mr. Jerry Todd in the Ford pickup truck, and make sure it has the one that's got the Chris's hot dogs on it. Okay?
You're going to make me take people to town, aren't you?
I am. And you're going to take me to town before we leave.
We're going to Chris's tomorrow.
All right. To all of our listeners, hope you enjoyed our conversation here with the great rodeo announcer, Mr. Jerry Todd. Raymer, Alabama's where we're sitting right now. Kickback Ranch. Hope you enjoyed.
You come. We got some new shoes. We got new shoes here too, by the way.
Yeah, you got a store over there. Oh, look at that. Phone rings. Perfect time.
That's my son. He's calling. He's driving back from Davie right now. So.
This is
Jerry Todd.
And I'm Doug Simcox. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless.